Hi everyone, it's Lisa Mears. Thank you for being here. Today I'm going to be making two autumn cards using distress spray stains. Spray stains are such an easy way to get a lot of ink on your cardstock for creating backgrounds, die cutting, and more. The distress spray stains come in all of the same colors as the distress inks, only they are in a liquid spray. And I picked up several different colors and I will be using some for my cards today. I will also be using the scrapbook.com High Fall stamp set. Now don't let the name of this stamp set fool you thinking it's just for fall, because if you look at it, there are many sentiments that can be used on cards all year round. I love the large high stamp that's included, and there's also a large love you stamp and some other stamps such as thankful, wonderful, family, and fall. And then there are some smaller stamps such as grateful, for you, and many more. I'll also be using the scrapbook.com autumn leaves die set, which consists of several different shaped autumn leaves and the word grateful. And I'll be using the scrapbook.com Autumn Breeze stencil, which contains several different shaped leaves and pumpkins. Now, before I get started on my cards today, I do want to mention that these cards are part of the scrapbook.com High Fall Parade. This parade will provide lots of inspiration using the High Fall stamp set that I just showed you. So if you want more card ideas using this stamp, make sure you follow along in the parade. I will have a link to the parade as well as links to all of the products used in this video in the description box below. So because the distress spray stains are liquid, I'm using watercolor paper because it will hold the ink well. I'm picking several colors and spraying them on my cardstock. The first color I sprayed is the Spiced Marmalade, which is an orange color. The next color I sprayed is the Mustard Seed, which is a yellow, followed by the Crackling Campfire, which is a red color. Next, I'm just going to lift this up with my tweezers and just kind of move that ink around the cardstock just so that it gets a little bit of a better blend. And then I'm going to take my heat tool and I'm going to apply some heat to this just to get it dried a little bit. It will move some of those colors around, but if you end up with lots of ink on your cardstock, you can just take a paper towel and just dab that ink off. Once I set that aside and make sure that background is fully dry, I bring it back in to layer on some additional inks. So I'm putting here some of the Rustic Wilderness, which is green. I'm also going to be using some of the Peacock Feathers, which is kind of like a teal ink, and I'm going to dry that as well. Now you don't have to use your heat tool to dry it. You can just let this sit and air dry, but if you wanted it to dry a little bit quicker, of course you can use your heat tool. So I dry it between adding layers because it allows me to build the layers. If I just keep spraying this with ink, it's just going to blend all of those colors together because these are water-based. And by drying the cardstock between applications will allow me to continue to build color on top. So here I'm just taking out another piece of cardstock and using some of those same colors to spray the ink on my paper. And I also want to point out that I am spraying this inside of a cardboard box because I don't want to get this all over my desk. So I do suggest using a cardboard box to put your paper in, and that way all of the mess and ink that is overspray can go into the box and not all over your craft table. So because I'm making autumn cards today, I have picked several different color of the spray stains that are autumn or fall colors. And that's what I'm using here. And you can see that with all of the backgrounds that I'm going to be creating today, all of them, even though I'm using the same colors, they're all going to give me a different look depending on how much ink I used, where I spray the ink on the paper. Now for this background, I think I used all of those colors I mentioned previously except for the Peacock Feathers, which the Peacock Feathers is more of a teal, and I omitted that one from this background. But I just love the way these backgrounds turn out. So I just keep playing with this and adding some more inks to the backgrounds, just creating more backgrounds. This one I add the Peacock Feathers first, and then I'm going to add the Rustic Wilderness, followed by the Spiced Marmalade and the Mustard Seed. I add some of the Crackling Campfire, and then I come in with some more Peacock Feathers. Now you can just keep spraying these inks and they will blend together. If you pick your paper up and kind of move them around, they will blend together. But you can also, if you wanted to get even a better blend, you can spritz this background with water, which I do not do, and that will help move your colors as well. So here I'm just drying that background, and then I'm going to come back in with some inks and just add some more ink to the top of this just to get some more colors on there. And you guys could really go to town with this just by creating lots of different backgrounds, just by spraying inks, drying it, spraying some more inks, and every time you're going to get a different look. So once you have your backgrounds created, you can use these backgrounds to actually do some die cutting of images, which what I'm going to show you today. You can also use these for backgrounds on your cards. You can use these with stencils. This is such a great way for adding a lot of ink on your cardstock without having to use your ink pads and do blending, because you can see with one spray you do get a lot of ink down on the cardstock. I also think that adding inks this way will also provide texture to your backgrounds, because you can see that some of the ink is thicker in spots than others, and I just think that adds for some depth and texture to your backgrounds, or if you're doing any die cutting. So here I go in and add some of that Crackling Campfire red color, and I just think you can see all of those autumn colors coming out of this. Now I'm adding some of the spiced marmalade, and look how pretty this background is turning out. So here are some backgrounds that I created using those inks, and I will have a list of all of these colors down in the description. So if you wanted to duplicate any of these backgrounds, you'll have those colors. So now I'm taking the autumn leaves die set, and I'm taking all of these leaf dies, and I am going to die cut this cardstock using these leaf dies. Just look at how beautiful these leaves turned out. So I'm going to do another sheet. This time this one has more oranges on it. The other one had more greens. And I'm going to die cut this, and look how beautiful these leaves are. You can see that they look like they have texture to them from all of the ink sprays, but all of these leaves are different in the color, the way that the color is laid out on the leaves. Look how pretty these are. I just love this. So next I'm going to take one of my backgrounds. I'm just taping it to my mat, and I'm going to take the Autumn Breeze stencil, and I am going to spray this with water. So I'm just spraying this stencil with water, and then I'm going to put the wet side of the stencil onto this cardstock that I have the ink stains on, and I'm just going to kind of press down that stencil so that all of that water gets on that cardstock. It's going to kind of reactivate that ink again, but because there's holes in the stencil where the different shapes of the leaves and pumpkins are, it's not going to add any water or move any of the ink underneath the open areas. So when I lift the stencil up, there will be some ink puddles, but I'm just going to take a paper towel and I'm going to press that down. And when I lift all of the liquid ink off of that cardstock, you can see all of the different shapes of the pumpkins and the leaves on my cardstock. So it gives a really cool distress look, and I just love how this is turning out. So next I'm going to take the High Fall stamp set, and I'm going to stamp out the large word high on some white cardstock. I'm using some of my VersaFine Onyx Black ink to ink this up. It does take me a few times to get it all inked just because it's such a large stamp, but thank goodness for the Misty, because my stamp stays in place and I could just ink it again. Once I have it stamped out, I go ahead and remove it from the Misty, and I'm going to be using a square die to die cut this image out. Now there are not coordinating dies for this stamp set, but you could always fussy cut the image as well. I'm going to take a piece of this orange glitter paper from the scrapbook.com rainbow glitter paper pad, and this is already cut down to A2 in size, so I'm going to go ahead and put some glue on the back and then put it right on an A2 size card base. I thought this color matched perfectly with the inks that are on the cardstock, so that's why I chose that one. And then I'm going to trim this paper down just a little bit, down to 4 inches by 5¼ inches. And I'm going to be layering this layer onto a piece of white cardstock just to make it pop against that orange glitter background. So my white cardstock is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, which is just slightly larger than this spray stained cardstock. And then I'll add that to the glitter cardstock. And you can see how by adding just a little bit of that white, it's actually going to make it pop against that glitter. I'm also taking the word high and I'm adding that to another piece of the orange glitter paper, and I cut that with the next largest size square die in the set. And the square dies that I'm using are from Hero Arts. They're the Hero Arts Infinity Squares. So I'm going to go ahead and add the word high toward the top portion of my card. So I've got my beautiful background, my sentiment, and then I'm going to add a few of the leaves in the bottom right hand corner. So I'll just glue those directly onto my card. And then I tied a piece of twine in a bow and I just added it above the leaves. I also stamped out the word fall and cut it out, popped it up on some foam, and I'm adding it to the large high stamp. So my card says High Fall. And last but not least, for this card, I'm adding some glitter to the leaves using my Spectrum Noir glitter pen just to add a little bit of sparkle. And that's going to complete my first card. Moving on to my second card, I'm going to take the rest of these leaves and I'm going to add them to create a background full of leaves. This is a fun way of adding various die cuts to your card background to simulate pattern paper by just positioning them all in random order, making sure that some of the die cut images extend off of the card layer, because you can always cut those off, which is in fact what I'm going to do. So I'm just positioning all the leaves where I want them, and then once they're positioned, I'll go ahead and glue them all down. So my panel that I'm adding these die cuts to, it measures 4 inches by 5¼ inches. And once they are all glued down, I will just flip this over and trim off the excess leaves that are extending beyond that card layer. And some of the leaves that I cut off were large enough to add back to the card. So I'm just filling in some of the open gaps on the edges with some of those leaves. So I add one there on the left, and then I add another one here on the right side. And then I will just flip this over and just trim off the excess again. So look how beautiful all these leaves are against that white background. I think that white background really makes them pop. Next, I stamped out the sentiment thankful and for you. And I'm just using my scissors to fussy cut the words out. And then I'm going to add them to my card front. Next, I'll add this layer to an A2 size card base that measures 4¼ by 5½ inches. And then to finish up this card, I'm going to add some of the Spellbinders gold gems to the front of the card. And that will complete this card. So once again, if you want to see more inspiration using the High Fall stamp set, you can join in on the scrapbook.com High Fall Parade. There will be a link down in the description box below. As always, if you like this video, please don't forget to click that thumbs up button and be sure to click that subscribe button and turn on your bell notifications so that you'll be notified every time I release a new video. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.